Hi, welcome to the Louise Jannetta Gallery and Studio YouTube channel. I've been making some books and there's this little concertina one that I'm going to show you how to do today. It's got a little toggle on the front. You just unwind the ribbon and then you open the concertina with an abstract in it. I hope it's of some use. If you like the video, could you please remember to like and subscribe, it's really helpful. And if you have any questions, please put them on the comments below and I'll make sure I answer them. Thanks very much. This little concertina book is meant to be an item in itself. It's not really a sketchbook, it's a abstract painting in itself, a possession. A little moment of contemplation. And so each little area is supposed to have some sort of I don't know, some lovely comment. So each little segment, each gesture, utilising the lovely mark making and aspects of paint to say something, a nice gentle poetry. This is how to make a concertina sketchbook now, and I did have some old cardstock. This is just cheap cardstock from a discount centre. So they're already pre-scored. The bowed side goes to the outside fold. So if that's to go like so, I'm going to stick this. So that goes that way. So that's got to go that way, and then this has got to go back again, like so. So I'm going to glue this up on here and stick that on. And that's how I made my concertina. It's just cards scored and stuck together to make a long concertina. To glue it up, get the rest of the concertina out the way, get your spare paper and some glue. I've got these brilliant bits of card to apply it with, and get the glue onto your card and just spread it right to the edges. Make sure it's right over the edges and right to the inside corner, but not right on the corner because your card doesn't actually go into the corner, and that way it allows it to bend. Take your piece of paper away, make sure you're going the right way because it's got to go the opposite way. So when that folds, let me just see, because it's this way, isn't it? So when that folds, it's going to go that way. So place that on there and that on there, but make sure you don't go right up into the corner because otherwise it won't bend. And then just position it nicely, nice and square. This is all water soluble, so you can wipe off any extra glue. And I'm covering this as well, but you can just get a bit of water and a cloth. The card's durable enough, and take off any stuff you don't like. Because I do seem to be pretty mucky today, but I have got so much on. I'm doing masses all at once. There we go, so you get the gist. Right, here's my book, here's my concertina interior, and here is one of the backs, one of the covers. And all it is the mount board, two pieces of mount board stuck together to give it some strength. And then I've covered it in watercolour paper. And then I'm going to paint it. And then when the concertina thing goes together, the inside of this will stick onto the inside of that and it'll look dead neat. But the reason why I've chosen the watercolour paper, it's a bit heavy for this use. You know, it's a bit difficult to manipulate and to get the corners nice. But what I really wanted was the feel of it. That has a really specific feel, and especially nice durable watercolour paper. And I think once this is all together, because this is going to be covered in watercolour paper, painted in abstracts, it's going to have a really almost fabric type effect, but much more sort of almost parchmenty, Chinesey type feel. So I got a piece of watercolour paper, these are the corners I've cut off, and I'm just going to cut it to a square. Well, it's to a reasonable square, I don't really care that it's not exact. And I'm going to show you what I did. So I got my card that I'm going to use and I score it and you use whatever you are using to make your score. So you press deeply all the way around the edges. Oops, the daisy, I don't want it on the board. Right, that's one set of marks. And then you get your ruler and you do another set of marks about the width of your board, because it's going to give it a lovely square edge. And again, it all helps to make it feel sharp and neat. Give it a real tactile quality. And this is really heavy watercolour paper, and it's probably about, I don't know, 240 or something like that. I bought it years ago. So I'm just taking the first one right to the edges a bit more, and then doing this all the way around in order to square it off. Now, start folding it in along those folds. Honestly, it's so funny because I'm just not tidy. And I have to really take that into account when I do things. I mean, I don't think I'd ever attempt a white, clean design because I just couldn't do it. For the corners, so you cut across those corners. So you end up with something like this. And then you need to get the actual bends as best you can. So I've now got the two folds. So pull it over for the first one and then pull it over again for the second one. So you've got the folds in there. And the idea is that when this is stuck inside, you get a lovely edge like that, and then these should tuck inside and pull over, and then that should just glue down, you see. See, I've still got a bit too much in there. I'm going to take off more on those. So you want it to be able to sit down there really nice and neatly. And the same on each side, so just cut away any excess at this point. So see how it's going to lie. So pull the same sides over, and then tuck it in. So you got something like that on each bit. Right, so just tuck that bit in and tuck that, so get it in position, tuck it in, and then know that that is just going to fold over nice and neatly. And it'll all, once the glue's on there, it'll soften up a bit and you end up with nice neat corners. Just get your applicator and your glue, and make sure you get it all over it and into those corners. You get an opportunity to do the flaps a bit more once it's on the piece of card. Just get enough glue on that it's going to stick nicely, and make sure you get it in the corners, but don't overdo it, so don't put it on too thickly. You've already made, and pull them over. And if you need more glue on these little flaps on this, at this point, put that on. And tuck those bits in at the corners that you'd already done. It should just all sit down really nicely. And the more glue you have on your fingers, the more mess you bring along with it. Right, and that's it. Just tighten it up. You can feel it. You can feel it pull round as you tighten it up, from sort of smoothing it over from the back. So smooth it over and sort of ease it round with your fingers. And that's it. And what you end up with is a lovely feel. It's just gorgeous. So there's the two ends. Let them dry and then I'll paint them. So this will get stuck onto there. We put like that and like so. So for the actual concertina piece, I've been practicing how I'm going to do it, and I want to stick abstracts that I've done on watercolour paper round the actual card concertina, and then fold it over at the back, and then the idea is that I would put another one going the other way really neatly, so there'd be a really nice finish to it. So I've got these gorgeous abstract yellows which I'm going to do. And I've done them like a Chinese sort of painting, so that the mark making is really important. And now I'm going to paint the boards that I did, the boards that I covered. And I've got some, I'm just going to use blacks and browns really, and blues, and I'm going to make it lovely and abstract and not worry about it too much. I've got a piece of paper down just to give me some chance to not get things too dirty, and I'm not going to worry about it too much. I want it to be alive of its own accord. I want it to work because of what it is, not because of what I've done to it as much as anything. I mean, I think that's lovely just as it is, just don't worry about it. So I've got some Chinese brushes here as well. For some reason I love yellow. Let's see, I wasn't really going to make it very yellow. And I think I want it more brown than yellows, you know? I want it sort of deep, dark and mysterious. So I'm just going to see what happens. You'll have to forgive me while I mess around. What a lovely job though. Even that where it's dripped is lovely, so I'm going to leave it. I like that. I'm not going to do much more to it. You know, when it gets too worked, I don't like it. So I'm just taking those brush marks out a bit, and then I'll just let it dry. Right, and same again for the other side. I know that this is not everybody's tastes, but I'm not too bothered about that. And I know that my stuff is spontaneous, to say the least. I mean, there's some such beautiful things that happen, and I just love it. So to me, it's really important to let it happen. So let's see what happens if I just bring, oh, isn't that gorgeous? Oh well. I mean, I only say oh well because I have to leave it, because I think that's so lovely. I'm just going to go for some brown. Now last of all, the blue. Okay, stop. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that and see what happens. When you start gluing your abstracts into your concertina, you have to think that this piece is going to stick down onto the cover. So the first piece you don't need anything on the back of, and this then has to concertina with it, with the whole thing. You know, you might measure it out 6 inches, 6 inches, score it and everything. That's not what it's going to be like, because in fact the outer concertina, the one that bends out, is greater than the inner concertina, and it's really difficult to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to leave it to chance. I'm going to do it as I go along. So each page I'm going to glue and go forward. And I'm going to go forward with the folding as I go, because I don't trust myself either to get those right, to measure it. I want to do it as I go along, get these down flat as I go along. And I'm not too worried about sort of positioning. I'm going to see what happens, because I'll just see if it's nice. So get your glue ready, and I've got some cloth so that I can keep wiping my hands so that I'm reasonably clean. That's like asking the impossible from me. I've got a whole load of little tabs to apply the glue. Get your paper and start the first bit. So I want the glue right into the corner this time, and I do want to start the gluing on this part on the other side, because I'll just pull it through. So I will put some on there, take it all the way up on that side as well. Now I've actually made my abstract slightly bigger than the book, because I want it to fold over really neatly. It's all going to be ridiculously neat. Right, get that right into the corner, central and into the corner of your fold. Just make sure that's really nicely in there. One side down, and then fold it over and get the other side down. Just making sure again that your concertina is folded, all going to sit down nicely. Right, so now I should have those two pieces done. Right, now push that right into the inside. Now I can score down this side with my bone folder, which I haven't got. And the idea is to score down this side, but leaving it just slightly enough so that it's actually got space to go over that bend. Otherwise it's not going to be happy. And then again, I'm going to this time take that into that corner. So let me see, I'm going to go like this. I mean, again, tempted to glue it all up in first. So I am going to glue it all in. Glue all this so it's definitely going over that fold. Not too much glue. And then down the other side. And this time I want it to go up to the fold. I'm going to fold it into that fold, the concertina fold. Right, ready? Take it over, smooth it down, and take it into that concertina fold. Make sure that's actually going to fold really nicely into that concertina fold, so that that's all going to move nicely. And then this time you take this off a bit away from the edge and clip away the excess so that you're not dealing with it when you fold it over. Open everything up. Now I know that those concertinas are going to work, and I know that this also is going to sit nice and neat into that corner, and my next sheet can just sit snug up into there, you see. But equally I know that all these folds are enough so that it will give the whole thing space to move nicely. And just check, see there, it's miles away from the corner. You've got to really make sure that you've got it into that corner at this point. So get it in and glue it down, and use your bone folder to really get into that crease nicely. Okay, so that's 3. Now what I'm going to do on the other side is I'm going to fold it down so that it's all lovely and neat. Take away the corners here like I did before on the cover, knowing that it's going to fold back on the corners here. I'm just going to cut into it so it's not over the card, just up to the card on both sides, and that will allow it to go around that corner a bit. Right, here goes. I mean, I could score all along there so this definitely folds across neatly. So I'm going to do that as well. So I'm just scoring on the outside of the card all the way around. What a palaver. Do I regret doing this? Possibly. It's not really my cup of tea, this. It's too neat. You know, I think I'm a much more... I want it all to happen spontaneously, like a dance. It's a bit more of a struggle. Right, then that should come over and glue down, and still make sure your scoring is going to happen there, because again, just on this inside, I think possibly take off a little extra bit there so that it sits nicely. You'll have to sort of see how your fabric, your paper works, because I suppose each one's going to be slightly different. Just making sure everything's going to sit down nicely. Right, and then still check that everything's going to bend nicely. Okay, I'm going to glue this down now. So I'm going to glue this. Right, let's try it. So fold it over and stick it down. You've used acrylics on watercolour paper, on heavy duty watercolour paper, so the whole thing is quite forgiving. The acrylics aren't going to move when you wet it, when you're cleaning it up. And the heavy watercolour paper is robust enough to take a bit of bashing. You just check your concertinas. Check they're going to work. On this one, it's got to be able to actually go around those to bend, hasn't it? And this paper, because it's so thick, is preventing things from sitting, I think. Leave these on it. Cool. Right, we're beginning to get there. Right, now just check everything again. Continuously check, make sure everything's going to sit nicely. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this last one. Is going to go in. So you trimmed off all the bits, stick everything down nicely. It's all going to bend nicely. And just make sure all your bits are stuck down. If you need a bit more glue, add a bit of glue. Honestly, that's worked really well in the end, as things tend to do. Wow, so look, there you go. There's your first 3 pages done. And it all moves really nicely. And it'll all sit beautifully when it's done. So the book cover will go on the back of that. I'm just going to completely clear my surface, clean and dry. It's going to take me forever. I've made too big a book again. I always do this. But it is going to be lovely when it's finished. Sounds as if I'm trying to persuade myself, don't I? Right, you see, what happens next is the next layer will go on top like this, but I'm going to make the next layer thinner, much easier to handle. Right, so when you go on to the next bit, you're doing the same sort of principle. Right, so there's my next bit, or that can be my next bit, and I'll just do the same principle, going along, sticking it to the first one, taking it right into that inner corner there, and then folding it over as I go, allowing it to concertina so that I know it's going to sit happily. Well, it's not dry, so I can't do that one. Right, I'm going onto my next bit. I've put glue right up into that corner, so it definitely sits in that corner. And I've glued up to the first fold. I'm going to get my piece of paper, and I know because this paper I haven't cut, as in I haven't cut the ends, I know it's a good right angle. And I'm going to run some glue across the edge of that just to make sure that inside corner is going to stick down nicely. Right, go into your corner, and now this is, make sure it's central and make sure it's straight. Make sure it's running parallel, that you're not going on a twist, because nothing's going to be perfect. That corner isn't going to be perfect any more than anything else. So just lay it down to the first edge, squeeze it right up into your little concertina, and then go on to your next bit. Right, now for the next one. So I've got the lovely fold in there. I can butt that up really nicely and take it along to the next fold. So I'm going to glue it up and progressively take it round. Just to show you, so this is the outside page. When it's all concertinaed up, once it's all concertinaed up, these 2 pages are going to be glued down onto the back, onto the actual cover. So I showed you how to do it. You just simply fold them over, but I'll show you once again. So when you take these ones down to fold it over, you just cut into it, leaving a millimetre. And same here. It's just so that the bulk's out the way a bit, and then you may even have to trim some bulk off some more. And this you just cut at 45 degrees, just about, leaving a millimetre. So just enough so that you cover the corner when you folded it. You also, I keep forgetting, but you need to score these. Just it helps to bend them over. Score this one and these, and just get these end bits neat before you start getting the glue on, because you just want it to have lovely little neat edges when it's done. I'm going to take a tiny bit more off there. And that's it. I'm going to glue them up and stick them down. Just to show you the end bit just quickly, so I've folded that over nice and neatly, then fold over the sides. Oops, that's a bit mucky with my little fingers. My fingers are getting horribly mucky. That'll just come off, and also it'll be covered. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and that's it. You've got lovely neat corners. And if there's any bits of white or unpleasantries showing, you can touch it up afterwards with a bit of black paint. Any unpleasantries you can touch up after with a bit of black paint. So that's it really, that's it. It's all done now. All except for the back cover, which I'll show you as well. I've now cut a strip of paper. It was wallpaper with a slight pattern on it, and I've painted it grey. I want it to have a sort of quiet greyness. I've got my glue, and I've glued up the first panel, because again you're going to have to get this so that it goes down really nice and neatly, and concertinas really well. The first panel of this is fixing down onto the cover. So you can do your first fold, making sure it's straight, put it into your concertina and take it over, because that first bit is going to be glued down and onto the cover like so. So it doesn't have to go all the way over the front of that. So I'm just going to ease this all the way along, making sure that the concertinas work and that it's nicely glued down, allowing it to concertina nicely. So I'm just going to take my time and do this to the end. Of course, all the time you've got to make sure you don't lose it doesn't start twisting, and if it does, it's okay, because you can stop in an inside concertina, cut it and fix it close up to it again, because it just won't show. You put it on as you would have done the papers for the front, the abstracts, and then tonight I shall press it between something heavy so that everything ends up nice and flat. Okay, so that's that bit, then go over. Make sure there's enough glue actually on that corner bit as well, on your fold, because you want it to really glue down into it, and not too much glue. It's going to keep everything really nice and tight now. Gosh, I get glue everywhere. Get rid of any nasty little lumps and bumps you've got in there as well, if you can. Right inside the concertina fold. Make sure there's enough glue on everything. There goes down this next one, so fold it over, get all the nice bits in so it looks nice. Fold it over so it's tight and neat, and then down it goes to the next one. Again, this is stretching slightly as it gets wet. Still seems to be going down, and I think it probably will shrink again as it dries. So you just go all the way to the end. Make sure the edges are lovely and stuck down at this point. Make sure it concertinas nicely, and you end up like that with the abstract on the front and this sort of backing piece on the back. Now I haven't got a length long enough to do the whole lot, so I will have to stop on an inside corner and just take it a little bit further over. So I will just trim it, get my glue, finish this bit off, and I'll bring this down and over, so bring it nice and tight and happy over that concertina fold, and down and into your little interior bend and stick it down. Right, keep going. So we're coming to the end of the concertina book, Well, hopefully both of the books. I have got into such a mess doing it. I've been doing so many bits and pieces and trying to do them quickly because I've got a lesson, a workshop I've got to do. These are some pieces I've got ready for the big book. These are going to go in the envelopes of the bigger book. But I've had to make bits and pieces of abstract paper. I've had to paint wallpaper. And I've had to fathom quite how I'm going to do it. So this is what I've ended up with. The two front and back of the book. So that's the covered mount board and then this concertina. There's the mount board covered, and here's the lovely concertina that is now covered in lovely expressive abstracts. Everything's all lovely and neat. Everything came out really well. That's left overnight to dry. And the slight painted wallpaper just looks lovely. So you leave the last one like so in order to stick your back onto and your front, and then it'll open up like that. But the next thing to do and consider is how you're going to actually get the book to close, and I'm going to put a little toggle on it. So at this point I'm going to put 2 holes through it, and I'm going to bring the thread through to the back and fix it to the back so that when this is stuck over it, you won't be able to see the threads. I've got this beautiful it's sari silk that's been dyed and twisted into a sort of string. So I know that's going to go about there. And then this piece, I've left it with a loop at the end so it's doubled. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to fix it to the back. So fix the board on. And then I need a length, 1, 2, 3, that's going to come down and meet the toggle, which is going to be there. So at this point, you have to sort out how much you need. So you want to know where the toggle is going to go, and I want it slightly to the left one side. So you just go 1, 2, 3, and then cut it to the back. So that's going to be stuck under the back of the last page. You'll see I've threaded this through twice, so it's going to be nice and strong, and I'll leave a length of it coming out so that it moves and it's flexible enough to get the actual thread, the loop of this over when it's finished. For putting on the toggle, decide where you want it in your on your picture. I quite like the mess of that corner. What I don't like is that, but I might be able to cover that up. So do I use that space? Yeah, I'm going to put it there. So mark where you want it, and mark where the holes are going to be. So I just want 2 holes. And then I'm going to punch through. Just got a sharp bradawl and a hammer. There is a cutting board underneath this piece of paper. Just going to go to my hole and punch a hole through. Should be enough to show. Yeah, I can see them the other side. So just open that up a bit more. So just trying to get on exactly the right place. And now I need this hole big enough for those threads to go through. It works really well as well, you know. Go from front to back, and that way everything is pushed into the holes. It will appear quite neat from the front. Right, get your toggle thread, and you want the 2 to go each way. You know, you want 2 on each side to give it strength, really. I mean, you could just thread it through with a bit of string and some linen yarn or something. You know, it doesn't have to be as robust as this. I do tend to overdo everything. Right, pull those through. And the other side. 1, 2, and then let it off so it's loose. Tie them so it's not going to come undone in little knots. Now to the back you just want to glue this. I think what I'll do is I'll just do that one knot. I'm just going to tie it once because it gets too bulky otherwise. And then I'm going to fix it all down with glue. I've just got my PVA glue, the good quality wood glue I'm using on this. And I'm going to glue that actual knot so that stays. And then I'm going to glue these down, but sort of out the way a bit, you know, try and get them as flat as I can. Right, so I've done that. And spread it out so it's out the way. I'm happy. And actually that'll be quite strong as well. So you end up with it like so. So having done that, you can test the length of your other piece as well, just to make sure everything's right. I want my toggle to be to the left of the bottom. So I've got that wrong there, like so. So that when it opens, that's going to be fixed onto there, that's going to be fixed onto there, and then it'll open up and it's Concertina with the main image to the front. So now take your loop, fix it over your little toggle loosely, not too tight, and just run it 1, 2, 3 round so that you know that the whole thing's going to fix up. Now just test it. Make sure it's usable. You know that that's loose enough, and that should just slip over there. Yeah, okay. So it's because the toggle is actually flexible, so it can twist round. So you don't want it too tight, but you don't want it too loose either. I mean, that's fine. So that is going to come to there in the back of the book. I'm just going to slip that out. So that's going to come to there in the back of the book. But I want it to come out from the top. Okay. Right, now just glue this down. So lay it so that it's going to be as thin, as flat as possible. I might put fabric over this so that it definitely stays in place. So that's the wood glue. Because I really make sure everything's really glued down, I'm just smearing some glue onto a piece of fabric. Right, and I'm going to stick that down over that just to make sure it all stays in place. You can't see it from the edges, so get rid of any excess. But that'll help that to stick down. Right, just going to fold this over so it's clean again. And then I want to do the same on the other side. So let me wash my hands. So that's all fixed to the back of the book, like so. Now I'm going to put a bit of extra fabric just over this. Just really just to make sure it's all really fixed down and isn't going to move. So glue up your fabric. Take the excess, pop it on over the top. And that's just doing it to death, really. Then your button's not going to go anywhere now. Okay, the last thing is to fix your booklet down. Just line everything up, check everything's right, and now you know that you've got to fix the front to the back now. All in place, all nice and neat. And then I'm going to put it under a lot of pressure in order for it to, you know, work. Right, I'm going to use bookbinding glue, and not so much that it's going to bleed out the edges. This is just such good glue, it sticks so quick. And I am putting quite a lot on because this has got to fix. Don't go too far into the edges because it's just smear out. But make sure you've got enough glue on there. Right, that's one. Make sure the front's in the right place. So that's that one. Turn it over. I should have done the back first, shouldn't I? And do the other side. Because it sits flat then, doesn't it? The toggles making it wobble. Okay, glue that up nicely. Enough glue so that it sticks, but not too much that it spreads out. And then put it under some weight. So all lined up and under some weight. Of course, it's not going to be easy because of the toggle. Right, let's see. Make sure it's in the right position. So I'm going to put it that way. No, it's on the toggle, yeah. So put that on. Right, now position them nicely. And get a cloth to get rid of any rubbish. Nasty bits of glue. I'm just getting rid of any glue I've spilt on the pieces, and just making sure that the front and the back are central. You know, that they sit nicely on there. It's lovely, this. It's robust, and everything can be wiped clean. Make sure there's no glue oozing out anywhere. You see, all the glue dries clear in any case, so it should be fine. And now put it down on the clean base, and I've actually made a little piece of protective card to go on top. So I will ease it round the toggle, because obviously I can't put it in a clamp or a book press because of the toggle. And now I've got a 16 kg weight. And I'm just going to sit it on top. So the 16 kg weight can sit on top overnight, and tomorrow I will make sure it's all glued up nicely. So it's then finished with a little toggle, and the thread is looped over. But that's the little book. Everything's really neat and square. This little concertina book is meant to be an item in itself. It's not really a sketchbook. It's a abstract painting in itself, a possession. A little moment of contemplation. And so each little area is supposed to have some sort of, I don't know, some lovely comment. So each little segment, each gesture, utilising the lovely mark making and aspects of paint to say something, a nice gentle poetry.